What's good, people? We back with another one. This one shines the light on gangs in Staten Island, also known as the Fifth Borough. Let's get into it. Staten Island. This is the second of a 5-part series examining the culture, inner workings and tragic fallout of gang-related activity in our borough, and the efforts of law enforcement and community leaders to contain it. Part 1. Gangs of Staten Island. From Gorilla Stone Mafia to OTA, a look at the crews operating in our borough. Interactive map. Staten Island, New York. Gang culture on Staten Island's North Shore is a world within itself. There's a drill music scene that's violent and influential, disputes on social media that sometimes end in bloodshed, and a loose set of rules that young gangsters live by. A Staten Island man in his mid-20s who first pledged loyalty to a crew on the North Shore as a teenager sat down with the AdvanceCLive.com recently to discuss the motivation for clicking up, and the chaos that followed. He spoke on the condition of anonymity to avoid any risks of discussing his experiences. Loyalty weighs heavy, recalling his acceptance into a crew as a teenager. He said a friend told him, "Come to the block, I want you to meet the homies." Growing up in a neighborhood scourged by generational poverty and criminal activity, he said his parents provided for he and his siblings but had to work day and night. "They were around, but they weren't around to stop me from doing the things I wanted to do, so I made friends who were into certain things and I followed suit. In the beginning, they clicked up to fight teens from other areas. Then, over time it escalated to some members of the crew selling street-level dope and coke, while carrying out armed robberies on civilians and rival drug dealers. Those who become good at it earn the status Jack Boys." He said a lot of the teenagers and young men were robbing to provide for themselves and in some cases their families. Experts say that in general, issues at home in historically low-income, high-crime areas include physical and mental health issues, often unaddressed due to a lack of equity and/or insurance passed down through generations. Atop close-quartered and too often dilapidated living conditions. As the crew gained in numbers, some were jumped in other words assaulted by several members to prove their toughness and earn their stripes. Others earn a place by carrying out a criminal act to benefit the crew, he said. A street-level crew typically operates on a block where a stash house is used for drugs, credit card scammers and/or guns. A credit card scammer is referred to as a Zoe god. A person profiting from an illegal cash business is a stack boy. It's about the protection and the notoriety. It's the feeling of brotherhood, he said. And just, there's a certain rush associated with it. But too often the endgame, some level of financial success and recognition outside of the neighborhood where they grow up, is cut short in a hail of gunfire, on a sidewalk near their home in front of multiple witnesses. Gang culture photos on social media of reputed leader of the Staten Island-based Gorilla Stone Mafia John Tragedy Penna show a neck tattoo of blood dripping from the word victorious. Tattoos on the backs of his hands read "Born a Boss" and "Died on." Facebook. Battle lines are drawn by high school. He said the battle lines between neighborhoods were drawn. There would be people who I grew up with all my life, but the moment we realized we were from two rival neighborhoods, that kind of deteriorated the friendship, he said. Or it was like, I'm cool with you, but my friends want to kill you. Experts say that for many who enter the lifestyle, a transition happens by the end of high school. Stick-ups on the street escalate to home invasions of drug dealers with families. Some graduate from selling stamp bags of heroin on the block to purchasing serious weight from regional players. And those who do time often make connections with heavy hitters in prison, their anger and jealousy toward adversaries festering as they sharpen their skills as a criminal. The man who spoke with the AdvanceCLive.com explained how he watched one of his friends progress into a different person over the course of 3 prison stints, each conviction lessening the opportunities for non-criminal work outside of a minimum wage job. He came out a different person, he said. He was all into the persona and everything about the gangster image. Even for those on the outside, once a friend is fatally stabbed or shot, it sets off a chain reaction, he said. A lot of these situations get to the point of no return, he said. Once your friend gets cut, or once your friend gets shot and killed, no amount of sorries can rectify that. vying for respect. Typically there are older members of crews calling shots to some degree and overseeing criminal activity. Law enforcement experts say they'll often use younger members to transport guns and weapons. Teenagers who sometimes go to deadly extremes to prove their worth in the group. The perception of respect is something held in high esteem in our community and is the motivation for a lot of unfortunate things that happen, said the man who spoke with the Advance. It's very unfortunate because a lot of the people who you're trying to impress, they can't do nothing for you people who will lead you down a path of destruction. In 2020, authorities noted an unusual rise in intergenerational violence involving individuals separated in age by about 2 decades, in what they speculated was tied to ongoing feuds between crews, domestic situations and the drug game. The man recalled being around 13